we'll be conducting this interview basically to talk about your life and your career from when you were probably born up until up to date, I suppose. Firstly, there's a bit of confusion about your real age. Official records said that you were born on the 23rd of July 1942.
43 in the one.
Okay, so could you just explain to us, especially in those days, because you know official records and date of birth are all very different. Can you just explain that for us, please?
In 1940, that is during the Second World War, when you go to school, they don't consider your age so much. But that's why I was born actually in 1940. But because the place where we stay is in the Ulu, it's about 4 hours by paddle boat to Muka. So because there is no school other than a Chinese school in front of our kampong, I was more or less denied the opportunity to start schooling at a younger age, which is basically at 7 or 8 years old at that time. So in order to qualify for me to go to primary one, I have to reduce my age. So in fact, I went to school on the 4th July, which is today, Independence Day, in 1952, I think, which is 12 years old already. And then my uncle, who is your nene on my mother's side, actually I was adopted by him. So he was a trader, fishmonger. So every morning he sent me from kampong to school. In the evening he picked me back. And at the same time, I was also his outboard driver because we were selling fish. So besides studying, I was already at that time about 12 years old. I was able to be the engine driver for him and my living at the same time. And that is one of the reasons why I have to register my official age 4 years or 12 to 8, 2 years younger lah.
Okay. That's why people were always confused about your age. Okay, anyway, in order for us to understand the complexities between of being Sarawak, and of course you can assist in explaining this unique relationship that we have between East Malaysia and the Peninsula, we'll have to go back to the beginning, obviously. Let's talk about how you started the path of your life. You've just mentioned some of it, and obviously your career, and including the influences that you've had throughout this lifelong journey so far. Tell us a bit about your family, your immediate family, and how you grew up. What Sarawak was like in your time.
Oh, during our time, it was colonial time. So basically, during colonial time, recognition is focused on somebody who has status in the society. Status in the sense that you are a civil servant, you're a pengulu, you are to kampong, or temenggong, and they respect more on the status than any ordinary person. This is the same even today. So this one doesn't change. But what changes from colonial time to independence is the opportunity to acquire education, not solely based on choice, but based on ability. So because fortunately, although I come late in my education life, which is 12 years old, I managed to speed up my education by having good position in class, and they give us double promotion that time. For instance, I started 4 months in primary 1, then 1 year in primary 2. From primary 2, I went to primary 4. 1 year in primary 4, I went to primary 6. So I managed to skip up twice in my school career. Both of them were when I was transferred from a Malay school, Dato Salleh, to Sacred Heart School Muka, now known as Three Rivers. And then by 1959 or 60, there were 11 of us altogether. There were who set for Sarawak Junior examination, they call it, Form 3. And out of 21, sorry, not 11, out of 21, 2 of us, Bumi Putra, managed to get first grade in 1959-60, you know. And then 9 non-Bumi, the rest all second and third grade, and 1 fell, who happens to be the cousin of Dr. Leo Toyat.
Okay. What was the family life like? I mean, I personally know Nenek, but and we never knew your father, my grandfather. What was the family
occupation? Like? Yeah, your grandfather was uneducated man, but the family then was very well known in the Melanau community. We are the descendant of this Tugau. Tugau is a very famous Melanau family at that time, and part of those Tugau family are the late Salahuddin, who is related to your grandfather. And then on the father side, your grandmother comes from Brunei. And then that's where Pihin Sri is now known. And then the father of your grandmother was a former imam in Brunei. And then because the Sultan that time was having a lot of concubines, and one of the families happened to be, they left Brunei, they migrate to Muka. So, and then the name Tuan Imam is Tuan Imam Haji Itam Abdul Rahman, and for which your one of your grandfathers on your mother's side was an imam that time, and a lot of their grandchildren now are also imam. Imam in Miri, Imam in Bintulu, Imam in Muka. So the generation has religious education, although on my father's side, he was working as a, what they call this, motor launch captain, flying between Cebu, Oyak and Dalat that time. And then when he realized that this life, this is what he told me while he was still alive, this has no end to it. So he left Cebu, he went to Kampong and became a carpenter, and met your grandmother. They got married, and then your grandmother has a brother who is called Bakri. He is, to say well known that time, not really well known, but he has been working in Sabah in Brunei during the Japanese time. So he went back to Kampong. He becomes a trader. He became a businessman. He traveled to Bintulu, Miri, Suai, having this boat. Then at the same time, he did business. So I become his ward. He adopted me. And that's how I managed to get a fairly comfortable living that time. We earn sometimes $300 to $400 a day, earning from the fishmongering, which that time is quite comfortable. It's a lot of money. And he is, in fact, he was financing me right through until after I passed my primary 6 common entrance exam, which was the first time conducted in Sarawak that time in 1965 or 66.